The Galactic Concord Station Zeta 9 bustled like a hive, but in Bay 88C, behind frosted glass and cluttered diagnostic equipment, Dr. Ellie Voss adjusted her cracked glasses and stared at the case report blinking in red. Species unknown. Biorisk high. Complaint: intolerable molar decay pain. The note ended with 3 words in capital letters: no prior treatment. She hesitated, thumb hovering over the reject case icon on her data pad, then sighed. Her clinic wasn't exactly high traffic, but she had a reputation for not saying no. Mostly because she didn't know how to. A tremor shook the wall behind her. Not mechanical. Something stepped. Another step. The shadows beyond the frosted glass warped. Something massive was crouching to enter. Then the door creaked open. The room dimmed. A massive silhouette, taller than the frame, ducked in. Black, jagged scales shimmered like cooled lava. Curved horns brushed the ceiling. Gold-flecked eyes scanned the room until they landed on Ellie. She didn't move. I am Thrixer of the Flame-born. I was told the human medic does not flee. Ellie swallowed. The air smelled faintly of ozone and heat. She couldn't move. Her fingers clenched around the edge of the counter. Thrixer took another step forward, slow and deliberate. If this is false, I will leave. His voice was deep, less a sound, more a seismic wave crawling through her spine. The translator didn't quite sync properly. Half his words came out as growls. No! She blurted, nearly tripping over a wheeled stool. You're in pain. Sit. I can help. Maybe. He curled around her equipment, trying not to knock over the hanging lights. When his tail brushed the counter, a set of dental mirrors clattered to the floor. Either of them moved. How long has it hurt? Thrixer turned his head slowly, nostrils flaring. Time is different to my kind. But I haven't consumed the core suns for 3 sleep cycles. Her eyebrows twitched. You've stopped eating suns? It is what keeps my internal temperatures balanced. The pain disrupts the cycle. Ellie stepped closer cautiously. May I see the tooth? Thrixer exhaled, steam curling from his nostrils. Then, with a jaw click that shook the chair legs, he opened his mouth. Ellie flinched. Rows of obsidian blades glistened. Near the back, one frond stood swollen and cracked, its core oozing a faint, glowing liquid. The nerve cavity was pulsing like it had a heartbeat of its own. Oh. That's bad, she murmured. You see now. Leave. Others did. She didn't answer. She was already pulling gloves on, sorting through her custom tools. She'd seen something similar before, once in a crustacean alien hybrid that used plasma-based blood. It reacted violently to oxygen. But she'd never seen one surrounded by so many redundant nerve circuits. The tooth itself wasn't the problem. The decay had shorted a bioelectric loop running into his cranial cluster. No wonder everyone else panicked. You could go into cardiac shock at any moment, she said, mostly to herself. Then work quickly. I can't numb it. Not without shorting your entire nervous system. He nodded once. Her hands trembled, but she reached for her microdrill anyway. It whirred to life with a soft vibration. She adjusted it to a harmonic frequency lower than standard, enough to disturb rot but not fracture crystalline enamel. She paused inches from the molar. Thrixer's eye, half-lidded from pain, opened again. You are afraid. Ellie forced a breath through her nose. Yes. Yet you stay. She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned in, one hand bracing against a scale the size of a paving stone, the other guiding her drill. The vibration rippled through the decay, causing it to flake in brittle chips. Thrixer tensed. The pulses grew erratic. She stopped. Thought. Then she began to hum, quietly, a simple scale. She didn't know why. Maybe to distract herself. Or maybe because it reminded her of being 10, sitting cross-legged in her backyard trying to fix her bearded dragon's chipped tooth with a nail file. The effect was immediate. The nerve pulses aligned, just slightly, to the rhythm of her voice. She continued working, slower now, matching each pass with the tone of her hum. Thrixer's growl became a rumble of something else. Not pain. Not quite peace. Stillness. After 17 minutes and 4 different tool adjustments, the decay had been removed, the nerve sealed with a polymer she'd synthesized for acidic biofluids. She didn't even know if it would hold. When she stepped back, sweat trailing from her brow, Thrixer shut his jaw slowly. He flexed it once. Then again. His breathing deepened. "You did not flee," he said at last. Ellie gave a weak laugh. "Wasn't an option." He lowered his massive head, one gold eye level with hers. "You called me cute." Her ears went red. I mean, biologically speaking, you're symmetrical. That's often interpreted as, I accept your bond. What bond? He rose, voice solemn. You have touched flame and did not burn. From this moment, you are under the protection of the Sarthian flame-born. Ellie blinked. Cool. Wait, what? The room remained quiet for a long time after Thrixer spoke. Ellie stood frozen, unsure if she had just been threatened, honored, or recruited into an alien cult. The dragon-like being watched her with that same unreadable intensity. The pain in his jaw had lessened, but the swelling hadn't disappeared. She knew the decay wasn't just a surface issue, it had spread deeper, possibly into his trigeminal cluster. If left untreated, it could trigger neurofeedback loops. He hadn't come for a cosmetic fix. He came to survive. Ellie rolled up her sleeves and gestured awkwardly. If you're serious about this protection thing, let's make sure you don't die on me first. Thrixer lowered himself again, this time without knocking over any instruments. She reached for her neural dampener, a ring-like instrument meant to gently interrupt nerve signals without fully disabling them. Most species tolerated it. Thrixer's physiology was uncharted territory. She activated the device and gently placed it near his cranial scale cluster. Immediately, a low hum vibrated through the floor. The lights flickered. Power draw is significant, he said, unmoving. Yeah, well, so is your head. She adjusted the dial. The vibration eased. The cracked molar pulsed with that same internal rhythm. She realized now it wasn't just nerve signals, it was bioelectric in nature, possibly used for heat regulation or even communication. No wonder standard anesthesia had failed. Dampening it too much could destabilize more than pain receptors, it could disrupt organ sync. She swapped the drill's tip for a fiber pulse oscillator. It worked like a dental laser but used precise harmonic energy, ideal for penetrating hard materials without damaging the layers beneath. Her tools weren't designed for flame-born species, but human tech had one advantage: it was adaptable. I need you to remain completely still. I have survived nova implosions. I will not flinch. The moment the oscillator touched the damaged tooth, Thrixer's back legs tensed, claws scratching slightly at the floor plating. Ellie paused, changed the frequency. She adjusted again, listening not to the tool, but to him, his breath, the subharmonics in his throat. Each shift in pitch changed his reaction. Then she remembered the hum. She began again, quieter, slower this time. Not just to calm herself, but to stabilize his internal harmonics. She matched the frequency of her tool to the resonance in his jawbone. The decay started breaking down, layer by layer, with no spasm response. Between pulses she spoke. You said others refused to help. Why? Thrixer's voice was low. My kind are remembered in war. Our appearance invites assumptions. And those who tried lack either courage or comprehension. Both are required. Ellie kept her focus. Well, I've been scared of the dark since I was 5, but I once fixed a spitter lizard's 4 rows of teeth using a hairdryer and dental floss. I think that qualifies. You are not like the others. She exhaled through a half-smile. Yeah. I get that a lot. With the decay finally cleared, she inspected the remaining tissue. The nerve sheath had thinned, dangerously so. The bioelectric energy wasn't just leaking, it was destabilizing nearby bone. She needed to reinforce it with a conductive mesh. From her supply case, she pulled a tiny strip of polymer-infused nanoweave, originally designed for repair work on acidic insectoid mandibles. She hadn't tested it on anything this large. She coated it in stabilizing gel and carefully pressed it into place. Thrixer flinched slightly. That part might sting. It is tolerable. The final step was pressure alignment. She used a magnetic caliper to gently close the molar just enough to hold the repair in place without inducing a stress fracture. It clicked perfectly. Ellie stepped back, sweat dampening the edges of her lab coat. It's done! Thrixer slowly shifted upright. The golden eye blinked once, then again. His jaw opened and closed with far more precision. The pressure has ceased. The fire steadies. Ellie nodded. The neural relays should fully stabilize within 30 hours. You'll feel back to normal by tomorrow, though I'd avoid eating any suns until the sheath finishes integrating. He watched her in silence. She turned away to record notes. Then he spoke, voice low. No one has ever touched me without fear. Ellie looked up, caught off guard. That wasn't fear. That was hyper-focused anxiety. It is different. He bowed, neck curling in a fluid arc. You repaired more than a tooth. She blinked. I merely treated the symptoms. Biology did the rest. No, Thrixer said. You chose to see me as something worth healing. Ellie didn't know what to say. So, as always, she reached for humor. Well, if I ever apply for a galactic dental license, can I use you as a reference? His eye narrowed. You already bear the mark of Sarthian trust. No title carries greater weight. She gave a lopsided shrug. Guess I'll need to update my resume. Ellie didn't fully grasp the implications of what she'd done until her clinic's network pinged with a priority alert. She glanced at her pad and froze. A diplomatic notice had been issued system-wide. One of the last Flame-born was receiving direct medical care from a human specialist. That shouldn't have triggered interstellar protocol. But the Flame-born were classified as volatile class entities, ancient, catastrophic, and officially neutral. Helping one wasn't just rare, it was unheard of. The door chimed again, not 5 minutes after Thrixer had left. This time, it wasn't a patient. It was a Concord officer in formal armor, standing at attention beside a hovering drone recording every second. You are Dr. Eleanor Voss, the officer said without preamble. She nodded, hesitant. You've rendered critical assistance to a non-aligned species. We need a debrief. Ellie had dealt with bureaucracy before. Supply disputes, licensing audits, expired sedatives. But nothing prepared her for the barrage of questions, details about Thrixer's physiology, the tools she used, what data she recorded. She answered carefully. Too little, and they'd label her evasive. Too much, and they might seize her files. I don't share patient data without consent, she said finally, crossing her arms. The officer raised an eyebrow. Do you understand the political significance of your actions? Ellie shrugged. He was in pain. That's the only significance that mattered. The drone beeped twice, signaling the end of the recording. The officer gave a brief nod and left. Ellie exhaled. She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath. The next few hours passed in a blur. Messages poured in, some from scientific institutions, others from news channels, and more than a few anonymous warnings. She ignored most of them. Her focus was on one thing, making sure Thrixer's recovery went smoothly. His unique physiology meant constant monitoring, even remotely. She'd programmed a microbeacon to track his vitals, non-invasive, passive. But what it reported next made her pulse spike. His core temperature was rising, fast. Not the slow, stabilizing kind. It was escalating toward critical thresholds. The nanoweave was holding structurally, but the energy it had absorbed during the sealant process was feeding back into his primary regulator gland. He was essentially overheating from the inside out. She activated the emergency comm link. Thrixer, she said sharply. You need to slow your internal core cycling. Now. Static. Then a low growl. I cannot. Something is interfering with my control. Describe it. Pressure. Like a thorn buried in the heart fire. I cannot extract it. Ellie realized it wasn't just biological. it was psychological. His species likely used bioelectric regulation as part of emotional or instinctual responses. If he felt threatened or dishonored, it could trigger defensive overheating. And someone, somewhere, had just labeled her assistance as an alliance gesture. That perception might be enough to set off dormant protocols in his ancestral memory. She didn't hesitate. She packed a case with the one prototype she hadn't intended to use, a coolant-anchored resonance loop, designed to draw energy away from overloaded implants. It had never been tested on organic tissues. She modified it en route to the coordinates pinging from his beacon. When she reached him, Thrixer was curled beside an old mining crater, his scales glowing faintly. The heat rolling off him shimmered the air. "I came alone," she said quickly. "No cameras. No Concord." He didn't speak. Just stared. Ellie knelt and opened the case. "This might feel invasive, but it's the only way to drain the excess without damaging your regulator." His jaw didn't move. She took that as consent. She applied the loop across his cranial ridge. It activated with a hum, then sank beneath the surface like liquid metal. The effect was immediate. His glow dimmed, breath slowed. The beacon's vitals steadied. After a moment, he spoke. "They see you as a symbol now. A bridge." Ellie kept her voice calm. "I'm not interested in being a symbol. I fix things. That's it. You do not understand what you've triggered. My kind are bound by ancient accord. Aid, freely given without bargain, it ignites old fires. Then let them burn somewhere useful," she said. "Because if peace has to start with a dental emergency, so be it." Thrixer let out a low, rumbling sound. Not laughter. Something older. "You are more dangerous than I realized." "Only with a drill," she replied. The temperature readings dropped another notch. The fire within him no longer raged uncontrollably. For the first time in hours, she saw clarity return to his eyes. "You saved me twice," he said. "This is no longer debt. It is oath." Ellie didn't answer. She didn't need to. Thrixer's recovery stabilized quickly after the resonance loop installation, but the aftermath spiraled far beyond medical charts and thermometrics. Ellie returned to her clinic only to find 3 different species waiting, none for dental work. A diplomatic envoy from the Vraxian delegation, a trade negotiator from the Zirith coalition, and a nervous Concord science official stood awkwardly in her lobby, trying not to look directly at the molten claw marks still etched into the floor tiles from Thrixer's visit. The Vraxian spoke first, projecting from his throat sac like a glimmering flute. "The Flame-born acknowledged your name in open transmission. We request mediation." The Zirith followed. "Your bond implies neutral standing between non-aligned superentities. We require assurance Flame-born forces will not act against Zirith mining interests." Ellie held up a hand. "Stop. I'm not a diplomat. I pulled a tooth." The Concord official stepped forward, visibly sweating. "Dr. Voss, this isn't just about a tooth anymore. You've altered political balance by establishing a bond with an apex species. We're asking, begging, you to remain available as an intermediary." "I didn't agree to anything," she snapped. He declared protection. "That's not the same as alliance." But that distinction didn't matter. The galaxy had already decided who she was now, whether she liked it or not. The moment she was alone, she activated her encrypted line. Thrixer answered immediately, eyes calm but alert. "You're causing quite a stir," she said dryly. "I warned you. Our customs carry weight beyond your understanding. You should have mentioned that saving your life would drag me into interstellar politics." He tilted his head slightly. "Would it have stopped you?" Ellie didn't reply. That was answer enough. Thrixer's gaze didn't waver. "You are being approached. Constantly. I've got empires treating me like a treaty clause with legs. They will not stop. Well, that's not how I work. I'm not neutral, I'm not aligned, I'm just a doctor. You are not just anything. You showed mercy when others showed fear. You bridged a silence older than your species. That has power." She sat down slowly, fingers tight around her data pad. Then I need to understand what I've walked into. No more riddles. Tell me what this bond really means. Thrixer's voice lowered. Among the flame-born, bonds are rare and irreversible. To receive aid without demand means more than gratitude. It means reverence. It means the one who gave becomes a flame keeper. Sounds ceremonial. It is biological. Our resonance adapts. My regenerative cycle now recognizes your harmonic imprint. Should I fall in battle, your name will be the last signal my core releases. Ellie stared at the screen. You're keyed to me? Like a failsafe? A legacy. She stood up, heart pounding. This isn't sustainable. I can't be responsible for your species' rituals. I'm a human, not a god. You are what you chose to be. That choice echoes. She paced the room. Every message she'd received since the procedure wasn't just political, it was anxious. People weren't worried about her siding with Thrixer. They were afraid that he had sided with her. Others think you're preparing for war. We are not. But our awakening is a signal. If we rise, others prepare to fall. That is the cycle they remember. Ellie sat again. Then break the cycle. You already have. He paused, then added, but your safety is not guaranteed. I'm aware. No, he insisted. You do not comprehend the magnitude. You touch the myth of a people who live in starfire. Now the void watches to see if you burn. Ellie took a breath. Then let them watch. I'm not here to be anyone's symbol or threat. I didn't save you to make a statement. I did it because someone needed help. That truth may be what saves more than just me. She frowned. What do you mean? There are others like me, hiding, sleeping, in isolation. Flame-born scattered across systems. If they hear what you've done, they may come forward. They may see that not all humans fear us. And if others don't want that, then you will need to decide whether your oath is to fear or to hope. Ellie leaned forward, meeting his gaze through the screen. Then I hope they're ready. Because I'm not taking back what I did. Not now. Not ever. Thrixer gave the faintest nod. Then the path is set. The first ship arrived quietly. A cloaked vessel with no registry, no broadcast signal, and a presence that made the air tighten in Ellie's lungs before it even landed. It didn't fire weapons or issue demands. It simply touched down outside her clinic, and from it emerged another flame-born, scarred, older, but unmistakably kin to Thrixer. His wings were tattered, the scales dimmer, yet his stance radiated strength born of eras Ellie could barely imagine. He said nothing. Just approached her and opened his mouth, revealing 2 broken fangs and a jaw misaligned by decades of untreated damage. No words. No negotiation. Just quiet, deliberate trust. Ellie gestured him inside. Word spread fast. Over the next week, 5 more came. One dragged their body across fractured ground, molten blood dripping from a chest wound that should have been fatal. Another hovered, silent and regal, but refused to lower their crest until Ellie reached out and placed a single hand against their plating. Each was different. All were dangerous. All came willingly. She treated every one of them. And every one left behind something more than gratitude. A token, a name, a glyph etched in a tongue she couldn't decipher, but Thrixer later explained, a ledger of honor. Ellie Voss was no longer a lone human dentist in a backwater system. She had become the singular contact point between Flame-born and the wider galaxy. Not through diplomacy. Not through strategy. Through care. Concord forces attempted to intervene once, dispatching a containment team under the guise of safety protocols. Ellie met them at the perimeter, surgical gloves still on. If you're here to detain patients, she said flatly, bring enough ships to explain to the galaxy why you denied a dying creature medical aid. The officer in charge hesitated, then made the only smart choice. He stood down. The footage leaked. Ellie didn't release it, but someone did. It spread faster than fire through dry brush. Suddenly, Ellie wasn't just a flame keeper. She was a threat. Not because she wielded power, but because she'd proven something the galaxy tried to forget, that empathy was more potent than fear. Trade guilds began altering their policies. Medical associations drafted new clauses for non-aligned species access. The political vacuum around Flame-born reawakened ancient treaties, and all the while, Ellie continued treating each new arrival like the last, without deference, without hesitation. Thrixer returned on the 12th day. "You've become a beacon," he said, watching her sterilize instruments. "Do you feel the weight of it?" She glanced up. "I feel tired." "Then let me carry some of it." "You already did. You trusted me when no one else did. That trust lit fires in places I thought long cold." She paused, then leaned back. "Why now? Why me? You acted without fear. So did others once. They acted from duty. You acted from choice." Ellie didn't respond immediately. The silence was comfortable now. Familiar. Then Thrixer stepped forward and placed a shard of blackened metal on her desk. It pulsed faintly with energy. "What is it?" she asked. "The first flame-born crest, forged when our kind chose isolation. With it, you are no longer an outsider. You are Keeper Emeritus." She shook her head. "I didn't do this for symbols. Symbols follow deeds. Refuse them if you wish. But they will remain." She stared at the shard. It wasn't just ceremonial. It was a message, a declaration, and possibly a key, one that would unlock future negotiations, or shatter them depending on how it was used. She looked at Thrixer. "What happens next?" "That depends on how many still believe compassion is weakness. And if they don't? Then you have given them proof." Ellie held the shard. It was warm, alive in some strange, ineffable way. "You ever think about how weird this all is?" she asked suddenly. "You're a dragon. I'm a nerd with a plaque in molar mechanics. And yet, here we are." Thrixer's mouth curved slightly. "Not so strange. Every inferno begins with a single spark." She nodded once, placing the shard beside her instruments. It didn't feel out of place. The world hadn't changed because Ellie set out to change it. It had changed because she didn't flinch when it mattered most. Because she had seen pain and chosen to help, no matter the shape of the one suffering. That decision couldn't be undone. Nor would she ever want it to be,